By now, you've likely heard of the term the imposter syndrome. You know, when you don't feel good enough or smart enough for something that you've been given. And one of the areas that can creep up on is your job. Well, on the flip side of that, we have a phenomenon called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Essentially, it's a cognitive bias in which a person will overestimate their own ability in a certain area. And this overconfidence can lead to a person being resistant to guidance and being taught, as well as the tendency to share the most information with people. And this can benefit politicians because they may have an audience that is poorly informed, overconfident, and more likely to believe what you say. And one person who's been emblematic of this is Fani Willis. So for those of you who aren't up to speed with the news, she has been the district attorney in Fulton County, Georgia since 2001. And also, she's garnered attention in the news for being the lead in the Trump election interference case in Georgia for RICO, racketeering, knowing and willfully trying to change the outcome of the case. And also, she's come under fire because of an alleged romantic affair with the special prosecutor in the case, aka Nathan Wade. Now, on top of that, or I should say on top of her...
That's what she said!
County records show that he's been paid over $654,000 in legal fees, making his salary well over the Supreme Court justice salary in the state of Georgia, with an average of $186,000 salary. Him and Fani have also gone on trips together, including one to Belize, where she paid a substantial amount of it in cash. And because of this, there have been evidentiary hearings ongoing to determine if this was a conflict of interest and determining if they got together before this case went down. Now, before I go any further, I just want to show you a clip of what she said a few years ago as to why she believed she deserved to be the district attorney. Take a listen.
Because they deserve a DA that won't have sex with his employees. Because they deserve a DA that won't put money in their own pocket when it should go to benefit children. Because we deserve better.
Well, it appears over the last few weeks that the claim that she wouldn't have sex with her employees has blown up. And this is essentially the perfect example of the Dunning-Kruger effect, because it boils down to just how untouchable she thought she was. Even after Nathaniel Wade had admitted to being reimbursed in cash for business trips that were paid for on his business card. And what's more, Wade had given one timeline of their relationship, yet Willis's former friend gave something contradictory.
When did your romantic relationship with Miss Willis begin?
2022.
When in 2022?
Early 2022.
So you were appointed in November of 2021.
Yes, ma'am.
And your relationship started early. What's early? January? February?
Around March.
Around March. But you two met at an October 2019 judicial conference, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
That testimony directly contradicts earlier testimony from one of Willis's former good friends who said the relationship began well before Wade testified it did and predated his hearing by the DA.
You have no doubt that their romantic relationship was in effect from 2019 until the last time you spoke with her?
No doubt.
Did you observe them do things that are common among people having a romantic relationship?
Yes.
Such as, can you give us an example?
Hugging, kissing, just affection.
All before November 1st of 2021, correct?
Yes.
Now, let me just say, when you are the subject of the prosecution, 9 times out of 10, it is a horrible idea to take the stand because we do not make good witnesses for ourselves. But in her hubris, she decided she was going to testify anyway. And I want you to decide how she conducted herself.
Did you listen to any of the arguments?
I did hear the arguments this morning. It's ridiculous to me that you lied on Monday, and yet here we still are. And I did listen to that argument.
All right, so that was it, just the argument, no testimony.
Right, I listened to the argument this morning where Adam Abadi, I thought, did an excellent job pointing out how dishonest you were with the court on Monday. And I'm actually surprised that the hearing continued, but since it did, here I am.
Great. So let's just talk about what you did in preparation for today. Did you meet with Mr. Wade at all? Once the motion was filed, did you meet with Mr. Wade and talk to him about the motion that I filed to disqualify you?
On January, this first January motion?
Yes.
I don't know if you could say talked about. I probably had some choice words about some of the things that you said that were dishonest within this motion. So I don't know that it was a conversation. As you know, Mr. Wade is a Southern gentleman. Me, not so much.
I mean, I don't know about you, but if she said to me she isn't much of a gentleman, I honestly would not know if I should take that as a threat or not. And then when called out for it, she then thinks it would be a good idea to be self-righteous.
2019 judges conference.
We haven't gotten to the point where Ms. Willis should be treated also under 60.
I think we have.
I very much want to be here, so I'm not a hostile witness. I very much want to be here.
Not so much that you're hostile, Ms. Willis, it'd be an adverse witness. Your interests are opposed to Ms. Merchant's.
Ms. Merchant's interests are contrary to democracy, Your Honor, not to mine.
All right, let's proceed.
Now, side note, a hostile witness in a courtroom does not mean you are coming across as hostile, though she certainly is hostile. It simply means a witness who has testified against the party who has called you to testify. So she wasn't off to a good start, and it seems to only get worse.
Ms. Merchant, if you could re-ask the question.
Okay. Are you aware that Fulton County requires you to disclose any relationship with someone that you're doing business with?
I'm not aware, and I know often that things are confused with state constitutional officers in county, but I'm not aware.
Okay, so it's your understanding that you don't have a duty to disclose the relationship.
She's answered that question. We're going to save that for argument.
You once said that you would not engage with a personal relationship with anyone that worked for Fulton County. Is that correct?
An employee?
Anyone that worked for Fulton County.
I think I said an employee.
Okay. So that's the qualification you give an employee? You wouldn't.
I think that's a statement that I made. So if you want to quote me accurately.
And it continues to go downhill.
Last area, briefly.
Yes, sir.
You had contact with Mr. Wade in the year 2020, correct?
Ooh, very limited contact because Mr. Wade had a form of cancer that makes your allegations somewhat ridiculous.
I do appreciate the characterization.
I'm not going to emasculate a black man, but I'm just telling you.
I'm sorry, what?
I'm not going to emasculate a black man. Did you understand that?
All right,
well, I don't think we should discuss further.
Mr. Sadow, next question.
Now, I find it ironic that she would call their allegations preposterous, considering she didn't have any good way of accounting for the money.
He paid for the flight and the cruise in October.
And I think that when you say things that way, I want this record to be abundantly clear that he calls his travel agent, he calls his cruise agent. They do whatever he tells them. He's like on a first name basis with these people. They do it, and then he tells me how much it is, and I give him the money back. I don't, just like you're asking me about the money with Robin, I don't do my friends like that. So if you tell me it's a G, then you're going to get $1,000. Whatever it is, I didn't ever make him produce receipts to me. Whatever he told me it was, I gave him the money back.
So my question was, where did that cash originally come from, if it didn't come out of the bank?
Cash is fungible. We've had cash for years in my house. So for me to tell you the source of when it comes from, when you go to Publix and you buy something, you get $50, you throw it in there. It's been my whole life. When I took out a large amount of money on my first campaign, I kept some of the cash of that. Like, to tell you.
And here, folks, you just casually heard her admit to embezzling money from her campaign, something that she should be on trial for, which is a travesty that she isn't right now. Now, the thing is, she was saying all of that while pulling the race card, while dodging questions, while being egotistical about where the money came from her, quote, her blood, sweat, and tears, or as the prosecution said, not knowing how to account for that money. And the other thing is, she tries to use Wade's cancer back in 2020 as a supposed alibi as to why they couldn't have possibly been together then. But even that fell apart as they got cross-examined.
Did you go out to eat with him?
Maybe. Probably.
Did you visit him in any location, his office, or did he visit you in your office in 2020?
I am sure I'm sure. Ooh, that's a very good question. I'm sure he came to 750 in 2020.
750
was my office.
Okay.
Not often, but maybe once or twice. Maybe I went to his office once or twice, but maybe once.
And the purpose for going to his office would have been what?
Maybe we would have went to Mellow Mushrooms for pizza, or maybe he would have come for lunch. I'm sure we went by each other's office, though, but not often, not a lot. We both grinding.
I don't want to get into the type of cancer. I don't want to get into the medical condition itself. Did I understand you to say that you had cancer in the year of 2020?
Yes, sir.
And you explained that because of that, in 2020, you were or kept yourself in a sterile environment?
I tried, yes, sir.
Now, you remember I asked you some questions about Hateville?
Yes, sir.
And the condo?
Yes, sir.
And you indicated that prior to November 1st of 2021, you had spent time at the condo, the Hateville condo?
Yes, sir.
With Miss Willis, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And so you were not concerned, that was not a sterile environment, was it?
Are you inferring that Miss Yurdy and
No, I'm
D.A.
just saying
Willis
that-
is not sterile? Of course it's a sterile environment. It's a condo.
But don't you remember then I followed up and said, where else might you have been to show your cell phone records from Hateville? And you said, the airport, right? Not a sterile environment though, the airport, you agree?
It is not.
Okay, what about restaurants? Not a sterile environment, right?
They are not.
And the Porsche, you said something about a Porsche what?
The Porsche experience.
That doesn't sound very sterile to me. Is that a sterile environment?
Well, you're inside your vehicle.
Yeah, but don't you mingle with others?
You can.
Yeah, and you were doing all that in 2021 before November 1st. That's what you testified to, correct?
Yes, sir.
So there's no reason why you couldn't be dating in 2021, is there?
You mean 2020, Mr. Sadow?
No, I said 2021.
All right.
Correct?
Dating? No.
Now take that, coupled with her failure to disclose her relationship to the county as was required, and it adds a layer of plausibility to Fani Willis's former friend's testimony. And it doesn't paint them in a good light at all. It makes them look very shady and very dishonest. Now, there's a lot of other footage that I could be showing you, such as her failure to even know certain continents, or her getting into semantics with the judge about, what do you mean by relationship? Was sex involved? Yada, yada. And the point is, she thinks that because she is the DA in a high-profile case on track to take down the former President Donald Trump himself, that she is somewhat untouchable. And she thinks she's making herself look good, but in fact, the opposite is happening. Now, the other ironic part about this is that she's prosecuting Donald Trump for RICO, or racketeering, which is something that you typically prosecute the mob for. But with the way that she does her business, aka high volumes of cash transactions, it makes her look like the mobster instead.
Maybe I am, maybe I'm not. Who's asking?
But this is the type of person we're dealing with. Somebody who thinks they're smarter and better than they truly are. And the more prestigious of a position you have, and the less qualified you actually are, the more likely you are to experience the Dunning-Kruger effect. Now, we hear about this concept all the time of a fallen world, and this is clearly emblematic of that. Excessive pride and arrogance. And to me, the only way to bring Fani Willis down a peg is to strip her of these prestigious positions, as well as indict her on the charges for the crimes that she admitted to during her testimony. But as the days roll on, it appears that that is more likely to happen. And for that, we can be hopeful. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to this channel, hopefully I've earned a subscription. Here's some videos for you to watch in the meantime. Until next time, peace out.